Every night, for a collective span of several years over a lifetime, human beings enter a world untethered from physical law and linear time. We fly without wings, converse with the departed, and stand unprepared before unseen audiences. This is the realm of dreams, a universal human experience as ancient as consciousness itself. For millennia, dreams were the province of mystics, priests, and poets, interpreted as divine messages, prophetic warnings, or gateways to the soul. But in the modern era, a new kind of explorer has ventured into this nocturnal landscape: the neuroscientist. Armed with the tools of imaging, electrophysiology, and biochemistry, science has begun to map the intricate labyrinth of the dreaming brain, transforming a source of ancient mystery into a frontier of cutting-edge discovery. The journey to understand dreams is not merely an academic exercise. It is an investigation into the very nature of memory, emotion, consciousness, and the nightly process of psychological alchemy that makes us who we are. To understand the dream, we must first understand its stage, the architecture of sleep. Sleep is not a monolithic state of passive rest. Instead, it is a highly structured, dynamic process that cycles through distinct phases, each with its own unique neurological signature. When we first succumb to slumber, we enter a series of stages known as non-rapid eye movement sleep, or NRM. The initial descent is light, a transitional state where muscles relax and brain waves begin to slow. We drift deeper into stage 2, characterized by specific bursts of neural activity that may play a role in consolidating memories from the day. Finally, we reach the deepest phase of NREM sleep, often called slow-wave sleep. Here, the brain's electrical output is dominated by large, synchronous delta waves. This is a state of profound biological restoration. Growth hormone is released, tissues are repaired, and the brain clears out metabolic waste products that have accumulated during waking hours. Thoughts during NREM sleep, if they occur at all, are typically fragmented, logical, and lack the rich sensory tapestry of a true dream. After approximately 70 to 90 minutes of this deep descent, a dramatic transformation occurs. The brain bursts back to life. A powerful cascade of signals originates deep within the brainstem in a region known as the pons. These signals travel upward, activating higher brain structures. The thalamus, the brain's sensory relay station, which had been dampened down during NREM sleep, springs into action, though it largely ignores input from the outside world. Instead, it floods the cerebral cortex with internal information. Brainwave patterns on an electroencephalogram, or EEG, suddenly resemble those of an active, waking brain. Yet beneath this flurry of neural activity, the body lies profoundly still. The same signals from the brainstem that awaken the cortex also travel down the spinal cord, actively inhibiting motor neurons. This state of temporary muscular paralysis, known as REM atonia, prevents us from physically acting out our dreams. It is this bizarre combination, a highly active, internally stimulated brain within a paralyzed body, that gives this stage its name: rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. Beneath closed eyelids, the eyes dart back and forth, as if scanning a world visible only to the dreamer. It is within this paradoxical state that the most vivid, narrative, and emotionally charged dreams are born. This recurring cycle between the quiet restoration of NREM and the internal fireworks of REM repeats itself multiple times throughout the night, with the duration of REM periods growing longer with each cycle, especially in the hours just before we wake. This meticulously choreographed nightly ballet of brain states provides the biological scaffolding upon which the theater of our dreams is constructed. The quest for a scientific explanation of dreaming's content, its wild surrealism, its emotional intensity, and its disjointed narratives, gained its first major neurobiological foothold in the 1970s with the activation synthesis hypothesis. Proposed by Harvard psychiatrists J. Allen Hobson and Robert McCarley, the theory was revolutionary for its time, positing a bottom-up model of dream creation. They argued that the bizarre nature of dreams wasn't a product of complex Freudian psychology, but a consequence of the brain's fundamental biology. According to their model, during REM sleep, the brainstem, particularly the pons, fires off chaotic, random bursts of neural signals. This is the activation phase. These signals surge upwards into the higher brain, bombarding the cerebral cortex, the seat of thought and perception. The cortex, a magnificent meaning-making machine, is then faced with a difficult task. It must interpret this storm of disjointed internal data. The process of trying to weave a coherent narrative from this random neural static is the synthesis phase. In this model, the brain is like a storyteller desperately trying to make sense of a set of randomly drawn pictures. If the activation signals stimulate the motor cortex, we might dream we are running. If they activate the visual cortex, strange and vivid images appear. If they stimulate the limbic system, powerful emotions like fear or joy erupt. The resulting dream narrative is a confabulation, the brain's best attempt to create a story that accommodates these disparate and illogical inputs. This theory elegantly explained many of dreams' most peculiar features: the sudden scene shifts, the impossible physics, and the bizarre juxtaposition of characters and places. However, over time, science revealed a more nuanced picture. While the initial insight of pontine activation remains a cornerstone, it has become clear that dreams are not entirely random. They often contain recurring themes, reflect waking life concerns, and exhibit a thematic consistency that a purely random generation model struggles to explain. This led to an evolution of the theory into what is now known as the AM model. AM stands for activation, input-output gating, and modulation. Activation still refers to the level of neural firing, high in both waking and REM sleep. Input-output gating describes the brain's relationship with the external world. During waking, the gate is open. We receive sensory input and produce motor output. During REM sleep, the gate is closed. Sensory input is blocked and motor output is inhibited, forcing the brain to rely solely on internally generated information. The most crucial addition is modulation. This refers to the specific chemical environment of the brain during different states. In REM sleep, the neurochemical landscape is drastically different from our waking hours. The brain is flooded with acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that promotes cortical activation and memory formation, while levels of other key modulators, like serotonin and norepinephrine, associated with attention, logic, and rational thought, are significantly suppressed. This specific chemical cocktail is believed to be the key factor shaping the unique quality of dream consciousness, leading to a state characterized by high emotion, rich visuals, and a profound lack of critical insight. A closer look at the active regions of the dreaming brain reveals the intricate machinery at work. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, allows us to watch the brain in action during REM sleep, and the patterns are revealing. The limbic system, the brain's emotional heartland, is in overdrive. The amygdala, a key node for processing fear and other strong emotions, is often hyperactive, which explains why so many dreams are tinged with anxiety or even terror. The hippocampus, crucial for memory consolidation and spatial navigation, is also highly engaged, rummaging through the archives of recent and distant experiences. This is why our dreams are often a mosaic of our past, a childhood home populated with recent colleagues, or a conversation with a long-lost friend about a problem from the previous day. Simultaneously, vast territories of the visual association cortex are ablaze with activity, constructing the complex, immersive worlds of our dreams with a vividness that can rival reality. The motor cortex is also active, planning and simulating movements that the body, thanks to rematonia, is unable to perform. Perhaps the most consequential piece of the puzzle is not what is active, but what is not. A key area of the brain shows a marked decrease in activity during REM sleep. the prefrontal cortex, specifically the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. This region is the brain's executive suite, the center for logical reasoning, self-reflection, planning, and critical judgment. It's the part of your brain that during waking life would immediately recognize the absurdity of talking to a squirrel or breathing underwater. With the prefrontal cortex largely offline, our ability for self-awareness and rational thought dissolves. We accept the most bizarre scenarios without question. Our sense of time becomes fluid, and our identity can become unstable. This temporary cognitive shutdown is essential to the dream state. It releases the brain from the rigid constraints of logic and allows for the free, associative, and hyper-emotional state that defines our nightly dramas. The dreaming brain is not a dysfunctional brain. It is a brain operating under a profoundly different set of rules, optimized not for interaction with the external world, but for an intense internal journey of emotional and mnemonic processing. The elaborate neural architecture of dreaming points towards a deeper biological purpose. If dreams were merely a meaningless byproduct of random neural firing, it would be a baffling waste of metabolic energy and evolutionary time. Instead, a growing body of evidence suggests that dreaming serves several critical functions, each contributing to our mental and emotional well-being. One of the most compelling theories is that dreams play a vital role in memory consolidation. Throughout the day, our brains are inundated with a constant stream of information. The hippocampus acts as a temporary holding buffer for these new experiences, or episodic memories. However, this is not a permanent storage solution. For a memory to become stable and long-lasting, it must be transferred to the vast network of the neocortex. Sleep, and specifically the interplay between NREM and REM, appears to be the primary window for this crucial process. During the deep, slow-wave sleep of NREM, the brain seems to engage in a form of neural replay. The same patterns of neurons that fired when learning a new skill or experiencing an event are reactivated, strengthening the initial memory trace. Then, during REM sleep, these freshly consolidated memories are integrated into our existing networks of knowledge. Dreams might be the subjective experience of this integration process. The brain is not just passively filing information away. It is actively exploring the new data, testing its connections to older memories, and searching for underlying patterns and hidden associations. This explains why sleeping on a problem often leads to a solution. The dreaming brain, unconstrained by linear logic, can make novel connections between disparate ideas, providing the raw material for creative insight. Studies have consistently shown that individuals who are allowed to dream after learning a new task, whether it's navigating a virtual maze or mastering a complex motor sequence, show significantly better performance than those who are deprived of REM sleep. Dreaming, in this sense, is not just about remembering the past. It is about learning from it, extracting wisdom and general principles to guide future behavior. Beyond cognitive function, dreaming appears to be essential for our emotional health. Psychiatrist Matthew Walker and his colleagues have proposed a model of dreaming as a form of overnight therapy. The theory suggests that REM sleep provides a unique neurochemical environment for processing emotionally charged experiences. As we have seen, the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, is highly active during REM sleep. However, this occurs in a brain that is almost entirely devoid of noradrenaline, a key stress-related neurotransmitter. This peculiar combination allows the brain to reprocess and reactivate distressing memories without the attendant physiological stress response. In effect, REM sleep and dreaming strip the emotional charge away from the memory itself. You retain the informational content of the event. You remember what happened. But the sharp, painful edge is softened. The dream is a safe, virtual space where the brain can re-examine difficult experiences, integrating them into the broader narrative of one's life in a less traumatic form. This nightly emotional recalibration may be why a full night's sleep can so often grant us a new perspective on the previous day's troubles. When this process fails, it can contribute to psychological disorders. For instance, individuals with post-traumatic stress disorder often exhibit dysfunctional REM sleep patterns, where they re-experience trauma in nightmares with the full neurochemical stress response intact, preventing the memory from being properly processed and neutralized. An alternative, yet complementary perspective on dream function comes from evolutionary biology. The threat simulation theory proposed by Finnish philosopher Antti Revonsuo argues that the primary ancestral purpose of dreaming was to serve as a high-fidelity virtual reality simulator for survival. Throughout much of human history, the waking world was fraught with peril. A simulation of these dangers, being chased by a predator, falling from a height, engaging in social conflict, would have provided a crucial advantage. By repeatedly practicing threat recognition and avoidance responses in the safe environment of a dream, our ancestors could hone their defensive instincts without any real-world risk. This theory neatly explains the prevalence of negative emotions and threatening scenarios in dreams, which studies have shown are far more common than positive or neutral ones. The typical anxiety dream, being unprepared for an exam, losing one's way, being pursued, may be modern-day manifestations of this ancient threat rehearsal mechanism. We are no longer rehearsing escapes from saber-toothed cats, but from the social and performance-based threats that define our modern survival landscape. The brain doesn't distinguish, it simply runs the simulation, keeping our coping mechanisms primed and ready for the challenges of the waking world. While these theories, memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and threat simulation, provide a robust framework for understanding the why of dreaming, the experience of the dreamscape itself is remarkably varied. Perhaps the most fascinating variation is the phenomenon of lucid dreaming. A lucid dream is one in which the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming. This flicker of insight transforms the experience. The dreamer is no longer a passive passenger in the narrative, but can become an active director, capable of influencing or even controlling the dream's events. From a neurological standpoint, lucid dreaming appears to correspond with a partial reactivation of the prefrontal cortex. That sober CEO of the brain, normally dormant during REM, comes back online. This re-engagement of higher-order cognitive functions like self-awareness and volition is what allows the dreamer to recognize the unreality of the dream state. Scientific study of lucid dreaming has provided a unique window into consciousness itself. Researchers have been able to communicate with sleeping subjects in real time. By agreeing on a prearranged signal, such as a specific sequence of eye movements, a lucid dreamer can notify the outside world that they have achieved lucidity from within the dream state. This has allowed for a series of groundbreaking experiments, directly correlating subjective dream experiences with objective brain activity. For example, when a lucid dreamer reports that they have started clenching their left fist in the dream, fMRI scans show corresponding activation in the right motor cortex of their physical brain, even though their body remains paralyzed. This confirms that the simulated actions within a dream recruit the same neural pathways as real actions, highlighting the profound realism of the simulation. At the other end of the experiential spectrum are nightmares. While an unpleasant dream can be unsettling, a true nightmare is a dream of sufficient emotional intensity to awaken the sleeper. They occur during REM sleep and are characterized by a well-developed, frightening narrative that the dreamer can often recall in vivid detail upon waking. Nightmares seem to represent a failure or an overload of the emotional regulation function of dreaming. Instead of stripping the emotion from a difficult memory, the system becomes overwhelmed, and the amygdala's fear response dominates the experience, culminating in an abrupt awakening. While occasional nightmares are a normal part of life, chronic nightmares can be a symptom of underlying psychological distress or trauma. They are distinct from night terrors, which are a different and often more dramatic phenomenon. Night terrors, or sleep terrors, are not dreams in the conventional sense. They are a disorder of arousal from deep NREM or slow-wave sleep. A person experiencing a night terror may suddenly sit bolt upright, scream, and appear terrified and confused, with a racing heart and rapid breathing. However, they are not fully awake and are unresponsive to their surroundings. Crucially, they have little to no recall of any specific dream content, only a vague sense of overwhelming terror. This is because the narrative-generating machinery of REM sleep is not active. It is a raw, physiological fear response erupting from the deepest stage of sleep. The simple act of remembering a dream is, in itself, a complex neurological puzzle. Many people insist that they don't dream, but it is more likely that they simply don't remember their dreams. Dream recall is highly dependent on when you wake up. The brain state during REM sleep is not conducive to encoding memories into long-term storage. The neurochemical environment, with its low levels of serotonin and norepinephrine, makes the intricate dream fabric highly volatile. A dream is like a soap bubble, beautiful and complex for a moment, but it vanishes almost instantly upon contact with the air of wakefulness. We are most likely to remember a dream if we awaken directly from it during a REM period. The abrupt transition allows the short-term memory of the dream to be captured by the waking brain's more robust memory encoding systems. As soon as we are awake, the brain's chemical state shifts, and any dream fragments that haven't been immediately attended to are quickly overwritten by the sensory input of the real world. Research also suggests that there may be neuroanatomical differences between high and low dream recallers. Individuals who remember their dreams more frequently tend to show greater activity in a brain region called the temporoparietal junction, an information processing hub that may orient our attention towards external stimuli. These individuals may be more easily awakened by sounds during the night, leading to more frequent interruptions of their REM sleep and consequently better recall of their dream content. The dreaming mind is not an entirely closed system. While the brain's gates to the outside world are mostly shut during REM sleep, external stimuli can sometimes breach the barrier and become woven into the fabric of the dream. The sound of a telephone ringing in the real world might be incorporated into a dream as a fire alarm or a church bell. A spray of water on a sleeper AS face could manifest as a dream of rain or being caught in a waterfall. This process demonstrates the brain's remarkable capacity for improvisation. The sleeping cortex takes this intrusive sensory data and seamlessly integrates it into the ongoing narrative, maintaining the integrity of the simulated world. This integration is another piece of evidence for the synthesis aspect of dream creation, where the brain works ceaselessly to make sense of all available inputs, whether they are generated internally from the brainstem or arrive unexpectedly from the outside world. This process highlights the fluidity and creativity of the dreaming brain, its ability to craft a coherent, if often bizarre, reality on the fly. Our nightly journey into the labyrinth of dreams, a territory once mapped only by myth and metaphor, is now being charted by the rigorous language of science. We have learned that dreaming is not psychic fluff, but a fundamental biological process deeply rooted in the architecture of the sleeping brain. It is a virtual rehearsal stage for our memories, a crucible for our emotions, and an ancient simulator for our survival instincts. The bizarre landscapes and fragmented plots are a direct reflection of a unique neurochemical state, a brain where emotion reigns, logic recedes, and creative connections run wild. Each night, as we close our eyes, we descend into this alternate reality. Here, the brain disconnects from the outside world to begin its essential work of mending, sorting, and making sense of our waking lives. We navigate this internal world, constructed from the fragments of our days and the echoes of our past, guided by a neurobiology honed over millions of years of evolution. The full picture is far from complete, and many mysteries still lie deep within the labyrinth's passages. Yet, what we have uncovered is astounding. The nightly theater of dreams is not an escape from reality, but an essential process by which we build, repair, and ultimately understand it. It is the astonishing science of how our brain tells stories to itself, in the dark, to prepare us for the light. This preparation for the light begins by sifting through the dark, through the vast and cluttered archive of the previous day's experiences. The brain does not randomly select the material for its nightly narratives. Instead, it engages in a sophisticated process of triage, prioritizing memories and emotions that are most relevant to our survival and well-being. This is the concept of day residue, a term first coined by Freud, but now understood in neurobiological terms. Dreams are not mere reruns of daily events. They are thematic digests. The dreaming brain fastidiously selects fragments of our waking lives, a brief conversation, a fleeting image, a challenging problem, and weaves them into its narrative tapestry. The selection criteria appear to be heavily weighted by emotion. Events that are tagged with a strong emotional charge, whether positive or negative, are far more likely to be granted entry into the dreamscape. This emotional tagging acts as a relevance filter, signaling to the sleeping brain that a particular memory is important and requires further processing. An argument with a loved one or the anxiety preceding a major presentation is much more likely to surface in a dream than the mundane act of washing dishes. This is the memory consolidation and emotional regulation functions at work on a specific, granular level, choosing the most pressing psychic material to dissect, analyze, and integrate within the safe, simulated environment of the dream. The nature of this internal theater, and the stories it tells, undergoes a profound transformation across the human lifespan, mirroring the development and maturation of the brain itself. Consider the infant. Newborns spend a remarkable 50% or more of their sleep time in the REM state, far more than adults. Yet, they lack the rich repository of life experiences to construct complex narratives. So, what purpose does this intense, dream-filled sleep serve? One leading theory suggests it is crucial for synaptogenesis, the formation of connections between neurons. Infant REM sleep may be a form of programmed neural stimulation, activating and strengthening essential brain circuits in the absence of significant external input. It is a biological process for building the fundamental architecture of the mind, creating the cognitive scaffolding necessary for future learning. Their dreams, if they could be called that, might be a pure and abstract ballet of raw sensation and emotion, bursts of color, feelings of motion, the primal comfort of warmth, templates of experience for the world to come. As a child grows, their dreams evolve in parallel with their cognitive abilities. The dreams of young children are often less narrative and more like static snapshots. They may dream of a single animal or a familiar person, lacking the complex plot lines and character interactions of adult dreams. This reflects the gradual development of the prefrontal cortex and the ability to construct linear sequences. The content is also distinct, frequently populated with animals, both friendly and fearsome, a possible reflection of an evolutionary preparedness to recognize and classify other living beings. As children develop a stronger sense of self and an understanding of social dynamics, their dreams become more complex and increasingly feature themselves as active participants. This period is also when nightmares and night terrors peak, perhaps because the maturing limbic system can now generate powerful fear, but the still developing prefrontal cortex lacks the full capacity to regulate it, even within the dream state. By adolescence and adulthood, the dream world has taken on its familiar form: immersive, narrative-driven, and rich with social and emotional complexity. Dream content directly reflects the preoccupations of this life stage: concerns about social status, romantic relationships, career ambitions, and personal identity. The brain's threat simulation mechanism is now busy rehearsing responses to modern social anxieties rather than ancient physical predators. Then, as we enter late adulthood, the architecture of sleep changes once more. The proportion of time spent in both deep NREM and REM sleep typically decreases. This shift may have consequences for dream experience. older adults often report fewer and less intensely emotional dreams, which could be linked to these changes in sleep patterns or to shifts in the brain's emotional processing centers. The decline in deep and REM sleep may also contribute to the age-related difficulties in memory consolidation, suggesting that the nightly work of dreaming remains a vital component of cognitive health throughout our entire lives. While dreams are intensely personal, drawing from the unique palette of an individual's life, they also tap into a reservoir of shared human experience. Across cultures and continents, people report dreaming of strikingly similar scenarios. These recurring universal themes are like psychological archetypes, suggesting that the dreaming brain is constrained and guided by the fundamental facts of human biology and evolution. Take, for instance, the dream of falling. This may be a vestigial product of our arboreal ancestors, for whom a fall meant certain death, instilling a deep, primal fear of heights. Or it could be a physiological artifact, a misinterpretation by the brain of the muscle relaxation that occurs as we drift off to sleep. The dream of being chased, another common trope, is a clear activation of the threat simulation system, a universal script for fight or flight that keeps our survival instincts sharp. Perhaps one of the most common and unsettling universal dreams is that of one's teeth falling out. Interpretations abound, from modern anxieties about appearance to Freudian analyses of castration anxiety. A more neuroevolutionary perspective might connect it to the real-world importance of healthy teeth for survival and reproduction throughout most of human history. Or perhaps to the sensation of bruxism or teeth grinding, which many people do unconsciously during sleep. The dream of flying or floating, conversely, is one of the most exhilarating. This may represent a symbolic feeling of freedom and liberation, or it could be the brain's imaginative interpretation of the body's disconnect from gravity and proprioceptive feedback while lying paralyzed in bed. The consistency of these themes suggests that while the specific details of our dreams are our own, the fundamental grammar and vocabulary of the dream language are shared by all of humanity, scripted by our common evolutionary journey. This evolutionary journey extends far beyond our own species. The signature of dreaming, the cycle of NREM and REM sleep, complete with brain activation and muscle atonia, is not exclusively human. It is present in virtually all mammals and even in birds. Anyone who has watched a pet dog twitch its paws, whine softly, and flutter its eyelids while asleep has witnessed the outward signs of a dreaming brain at work. Electrophysiological studies confirm this. By placing electrodes on the brains of sleeping animals, scientists can observe the same transition from the slow waves of deep sleep to the frenetic, wake-like activity of REM. In a classic experiment, researchers disabled the part of a cat's brainstem responsible for REM atonia. When the cats entered REM sleep, they did not lie still. They got up, stalked, and pounced on invisible prey, physically acting out their dreams. This provided dramatic proof that dreams in animals, like in humans, are immersive simulations of behaviors relevant to their waking lives. The existence of dreaming across such a wide range of species underscores its deep evolutionary roots and fundamental biological importance. It suggests that the need to process memories, regulate emotions, and rehearse survival behaviors in the offline sanctuary of sleep is not just a quirk of human consciousness, but a vital adaptation for any complex brain navigating a challenging world. As our understanding of the dreaming brain deepens, science is moving from passive observation to active interaction. A new and exciting frontier in neuroscience involves the deliberate attempt to influence and even communicate with the dream world. One of the most promising techniques is known as targeted memory reactivation, or TMR. In a typical TMR study, a subject learns a memory task, such as the location of objects on a screen, while being exposed to a specific sensory cue, like a particular sound or scent. Later, while the subject is in deep NREM sleep, researchers re-expose them to that same cue. The results are remarkable. The representation of the cue during sleep selectively reactivates the same neural pathways involved in the initial learning, significantly strengthening the memory. This shows that the sleeping brain can perceive and process external information and use it to guide its internal work of memory consolidation. It opens up the tantalizing possibility of using targeted cues to enhance learning, facilitate skill acquisition, or even help dampen the emotional sting of traumatic memories during sleep. Even more direct intervention is becoming possible through brain stimulation techniques. Using transcranial alternating current stimulation, or TACS, researchers can apply a weak, oscillating electrical current to the scalp. By tuning this current to specific frequencies, such as the gamma band brain waves associated with conscious awareness, they have been able to successfully increase the likelihood of subjects experiencing lucid dreams. It is a profound step, directly manipulating brainwave activity from the outside to switch on the lights of self-awareness within the dream state itself. This research not only reinforces the connection between specific neural oscillations and subjective conscious experience, but also offers a potential therapeutic tool. For individuals suffering from chronic nightmares, learning to achieve lucidity could transform a terrifying experience into a manageable one, allowing them to confront and control their fears from within the dream. These nascent technologies represent the first steps toward a future where we may be able to guide the content and character of our nightly journeys, harnessing the restorative power of dreams with unprecedented precision. Yet, as we stand on this threshold, we are confronted with profound questions. The dream world has always been the last truly private sanctuary of the self. What does it mean if technology can enter this space alongside us, to shape, record, or even extract information from our dreams? The ethical implications are vast. While the potential for therapeutic intervention is immense, the possibility of misuse cannot be ignored. For now, however, the primary focus remains on understanding, not exploitation. The scientific exploration of dreams continues to peel back the layers of one of life's greatest enduring mysteries. We have traveled from the brainstem to the cortex, from the molecular ballet of neurotransmitters to the grand theater of consciousness. We have learned that dreaming is a process of memory refinement, emotional healing, and mental rehearsal. It is a dialogue that the brain has with itself, a process of stitching together the past to prepare for the future. The dream is a testament to the ceaseless, creative, and restorative power of the human brain. Each night, in a world of its own creation, it dismantles the day, sorts the fragments of experience, and reconstructs our sense of self, ensuring that we awaken, not just rested, but remade, ready once more for the light of a new day. The midnight labyrinth still holds its secrets, but for the first time in human history, we hold a map, and the path forward promises still more astonishing discoveries. This map to the future of dream research points toward destinations that were once the exclusive domain of science fiction. One of the most ambitious paths on this new map is the quest to visualize dreams directly. Using the same fMRI technology that reveals which parts of the brain are active, combined with the pattern recognition power of artificial intelligence, researchers are taking the first steps toward reconstructing the visual content of a dream. The methodology is painstakingly complex. An algorithm is first trained on a waking subject's brain activity. The subject is shown thousands of images, faces, landscapes, animals, objects, while the AI learns to associate specific patterns of neural firing in the visual cortex with each image. Then, the real experiment begins. The same subject sleeps inside the scanner, and when they enter REM sleep, the algorithm gets to work. It monitors the spontaneous activity in their visual cortex, and based on its training, attempts to generate a visual reconstruction of what the dreaming brain is seeing. The results, though still rudimentary and ghostly, are nothing short of extraordinary. The reconstructions are not crisp photographs, but rather blurry, shifting amalgamations of shapes, categories, and concepts. The AI might generate the outline of a person when the subject reports dreaming of a friend, or produce a collage of outdoor textures when they dream of being in a forest. It is a technological proof of concept, demonstrating that the information needed to decode the imagery of a dream is objectively present in the brain, e.g. electrical signals. This field is in its infancy, but its trajectory is clear. As imaging resolution improves and algorithms become more sophisticated, we may one day possess a crude visual lexicon of the sleeping mind, a dream camera that could revolutionize our approach to psychology, art, and the study of subjective experience itself. This technological progress converges with a clinical frontier where dream science offers powerful new diagnostic and therapeutic tools. For decades, clinicians have listened to the content of their patients' dreams, searching for clues to their inner conflicts and emotional states. Now, the structure and physiology of dreaming are becoming equally important diagnostic markers. A prime example is REM sleep behavior disorder, or RBD. In this condition, the normal paralysis of REM sleep fails. Individuals physically act out their dreams, which are often violent and aggressive, leading them to thrash, kick, and even injure themselves or their partners. We now know that RBD is not just a sleep disturbance, it is a powerful early warning sign. An overwhelming majority of people who develop this disorder will, within a decade or two, go on to be diagnosed with a neurodegenerative disease, most commonly Parkinson's disease or Lewy body dementia. The malfunctioning of the brainstem circuitry that causes RBD is an early sign of the deeper pathology to come. The dream, in this case, becomes a window into the future of the brain's physical health, offering a critical opportunity for early intervention long before more debilitating motor symptoms appear. Similarly, the careful analysis of dream content, augmented by an understanding of its neural correlates, could become a key biomarker for mental health. Changes in the emotional tone of dreams, a sustained increase in anxiety dreams, a loss of positive dream content, or a particular thematic obsession could reflect the onset of depression or anxiety disorders with greater sensitivity than some traditional screening methods. The dream is an unfiltered expression of the brain's emotional centers. As such, it is an exquisitely sensitive barometer of our mental well-being, and science is finally learning how to read it accurately. Ultimately, the quest to understand dreams is inextricable from the quest to understand consciousness itself. The dreaming brain poses a fundamental philosophical puzzle. Every night, it spontaneously generates a complete, immersive, and sensorily rich reality, a world model populated by self-aware agents, all constructed without any real-time input from the external world. This demonstrates that our brains hold all the necessary machinery to create a universe from scratch. This fact has profound implications for our understanding of waking consciousness. It suggests that our waking reality is not a passive reception of sensory data, but an active, ongoing construction, a controlled hallucination that is constantly being calibrated and corrected by information from our senses. When that sensory input is removed, as it is in sleep, the brain's internal world-generating power is unleashed in its purest form. Lucid dreaming, in this context, becomes an invaluable laboratory. It is a hybrid state where the self-awareness of waking life emerges within the simulated reality of the dream, allowing us to study the neurological basis of insight and selfhood in a way that is impossible otherwise. By exploring this midnight labyrinth, we are not just studying sleep. We are studying the fundamental mechanisms by which any conscious reality, waking or dreaming, is brought into being. We have journeyed from the ancient belief in dreams as divine missives to a modern understanding of their deep biological roots. We have seen them as a sophisticated mechanism for cementing memories, a nightly therapy session for regulating our emotions, a virtual reality simulator for honing our survival instincts, and a boundless source of creativity. The surrealism of the dream is not a flaw, it is a feature. the product of a uniquely modulated brain chemistry that silences logic to make way for associative, metaphorical, and emotional truth. The fleeting nature of dreams, their tendency to dissolve upon waking, is not a bug in the system, but a necessary function, ensuring the fragile dream world gives way to the concrete demands of our physical one. The world of dreams, therefore, is not some other place we visit. It is an integral part of who we are, a nightly workshop where the raw material of our daily lives is hammered, forged, and reshaped on the anvil of our sleeping brain. It is the silent, hidden half of our autobiography, written each night in a language of symbols and feelings. To fall asleep is to entrust ourselves to this ancient, intelligent process, a process of restoration, integration, and creation that science has only just begun to illuminate. The dream remains the most intimate and personal of human experiences, and yet, it is also a universal one, connecting us to each other and to our evolutionary past. As you drift toward sleep tonight, know that you are not simply shutting down. You are embarking on a profound journey inward, into the astonishing nocturnal theater of the mind, where the most important work of being human continues quietly in the dark.